Well, we spoke about this earlier. It's been something of a bloodletting. World markets flashing red across the boards today. The losses deepened due to fears around the spread of COVID-19 and the potential now of a global pandemic. The JSE All-Share Index took another beating, falling by more than 4%. Let's look at the economic implications of coronavirus. We're joined by Dr. Martyn Davies, MD of Emerging Markets at Deloitte and Africa at Deloitte. Dr. Martyn, thank you for being with us. I guess for South Africa, it's not if coronavirus will come here, but when.
Good evening. I think that's sort of the accepted wisdom that it's not just here already. Well, it should be coming. What surprises them the last few days is the rapidity of the spread. I mean, 40 countries now have found cases of coronavirus, or as it is now called. It's deeply concerning and it's had dramatic effects on markets. And I think for us as South Africa, it's concerning, particularly from considering our export basket of commodities, largely the ultimate end customer being China here. Africa, Australia, not dissimilar. As China's economy has been arguably shut down almost now for 8 weeks, that'll have a very negative knock-on effect on commodity demand. So expect subdued exports of commodities to China in the coming weeks and months, and that is not good news for us, I'm afraid.
And explain just how important those exports are to the overall economy. I mean, if we're looking at growth already less than 1%, could it hit us even further?
Yeah, this has come at, obviously, stating the obvious, a really bad time. And China accounts for roughly 17% of global GDP. So, and as I mentioned, it's ultimately our end customer for our commodities, considering the significant infrastructure spend in the country, the manufacturing machine that we all know China is. We've seen disruptions in supply chain, i.e. trade, imports from China into South Africa, considering China is the single largest trading partner of our economy. But from a demand side, we're also going to see drop-off. We already are seeing drop-offs in commodities. It's not just South Africa. Other economies, particularly East Africa, coffee prices are down a third. Starbucks has over 4,000 stores in China. China's increasingly a sizable coffee consumer. So it's not just hard commodities, it's soft commodities as well. Not to mention, as you alluded to, is the dramatic impact and certainly a sense of risk on when it comes to global market currency currently, and that reflects in the knock our currency has taken, despite a very arguably positive and austere budget in the last week or so.
Well, the market reaction has been hectic, and investors don't understand all the health issues. They can just see what's going on. Has it been rational or maybe a little bit knee-jerk paranoid?
I think it's dramatic. Use the word hectic. It's certainly dramatic. I would argue somewhat sort of overreaction currently. I think a lot of uncertainty. What is fueling uncertainty are these figures of infections and death rates out of China accurate? Because that certainly has global implications. I remember being in China back in 2002, 2003 during the SARS crisis. This is a bit like deja vu, but by nowhere near the same sort of scale and rapidity of spread of this terrible disease. But then China was a relatively very small economy. Today it's the world's second biggest. So that impact is certainly having a dramatic effect globally, particularly in hospitality. So think from airlines to restaurant groups to hotels, of course. I've had 3 international trips cancelled this week alone. Those are to one destination to Asia, 2 to Europe, largely because of the sense of, dare I say, fear, maybe exaggerated, but it's risk-on mentality now for global markets, and that's reflecting certainly in the negative stats we are seeing.
We'll say it continues to spread for the next 6 months at least. What is the global economic impact in your view? I mean, in some senses, Donald Trump, the US president, has been accused of making the world less connected, not encouraging cross-border trade, but coronavirus is going to do that as well.
Certainly, we've had this decoupling effect of globalization, or globalization reversed gear. Firstly, was the ongoing trade war, or more accurately, geoeconomic conflict between China and the US. Secondly, was a tech war. Think companies like Huawei being sort of Exhibit A as collateral damage to that process. And now thirdly, and who would have foreseen this literally even 8 weeks ago, where the world is very rapidly deglobalizing in terms of flows of people, flows of capital, flows of product goods, and flows. This is the and flows of services, and we're seeing this, and this is unprecedented. The world is, despite the institutions we have, this is fear-mongering to an extent. I don't want to over-exaggerate things. The death rate the fatality rate is 2.5% to 3%, which is unacceptably high by any measures. But statistically, the numbers are incredibly small in the greater scheme of things. I think a sense is have calm, rational heads here, see how this plays out. But it seemingly ain't going away any time very soon. I think in the coming weeks, this could play out easy for many months to come. Last point, the IMF is already starting to ratchet down its growth forecast for the global economy. Forecast by Jan 1st this year was 3.3%. They're already starting to reduce that, and we could even see subdued global growth below 3% for 2020. And that's not good news, I'm afraid, for anybody, particularly price-taking economies like South Africa is.
Very quickly, Martyn, hard question. I mean, is there anything South Africa can do to sort of buffer itself economically right now?
It's a tricky one. I think it's, a lot of economies and ourselves have coupled our growth trajectory to the Chinese train, if you will, and that is, for better for worse, that's resulting in this severe impact now, and the proxy indicator being the rand. I think we have to have extremely rigid control sort of points, testing for COVID-19 as it's called, coronavirus, and we've certainly got to tighten up our borders in terms of these checks. So I hope we have the medical facilities in place, institutions are alert, and we're fully capable, be it a private and public sector medical facilities, of dealing with this if it does break out in an extremely rapid period of time. That's all we really can do.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Martyn Davies, Managing Director of Emerging Markets and Africa at Deloitte.